This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check you have the tickets in your wallet first before you drive 2 hours to the big game. Seriously, you had one job. Now the closest you'll get to the 50-yard line is parking lot D. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Ampire.
Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. My hockey team's going to play soon. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. I need to get Walton on. I mean to tell you this off the air. I'd like to talk to Walton at some point this week, please. I'd like to get set for Caps and their season starting this weekend. So can we hook that up maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I know a guy. Yeah, I think I can make that happen. Yeah, I think I can make that happen. Yeah. Did you know, by the way? So the season starts, the season started last week. There were games overseas, and I think it was Sweden. So
they're doing the NHL shocker is not doing a really good job promoting some of these types of things. Like they're playing real games overseas, and I don't know about it because my team's not in them.
So I think it's Buffalo and New Jersey played real games. Then there's today's the rollout. So there's 9 hours of hockey. So it's there's an afternoon game in Seattle to start things off today at 1:30, which is pretty cool, I think. Or 4:30, 1:30 their time, which I think is a cool opening day thing. Your Washington Capitals, though, are the second to last team to get their season started on Saturday. It's them and the Ducks. And the only reason the Ducks are later is because they literally play on the West Coast. So the Caps waiting until basically the last second to get their season started.
I'm pumped to get it back. As you know, hockey is a pure joy love for me too. So I'm very psyched to get it back. And I'm very excited to see what this team looks like. They're very different this year. They made a lot of moves in the offseason. There's a lot of stalwarts like TJ Oshie. You're not going to be around anymore. So I want to see what this team looks like. I think it's going to be very interesting. I'll get into the Commanders in a second. Actually, I'll just do it now because I forgot what I was going to talk about. All right. All right. Guess what? First big game. I think we got the first big game this weekend of the DQ, Jayden, Peters era. I'm going to throw Jayden into that now because I think he's a big part of this. It used to be it's the first this of Dan Quinn and Adam Peters. It's the first that. No, it's the first this, and you gotta put number 5 in the middle of it too, because all of the promotions are going to show pictures of him standing next to Lamar Jackson. We know that CBS blocked a flex attempt to get them into Sunday Night Football. You went through the schedule recently. I looked at some of the games coming up too, because I think if Washington continues to do this, they're going to be a candidate to get some night games. They'll get flexed into it, but the schedule actually has a few matchups. I think the Cowboys are playing the 49ers in a couple of weeks when Washington's playing the Bears. So I could see where they'd want Jayden and Caleb, but they're not going to move the Cowboys 49ers game. It was this weekend that it's Bengals Giants. So for sure they would have loved, I'm sure, to do it, but CBS apparently blocked it. So we get our first big game. You're going to start getting the comparisons. We're going to start finding out kind of what this is about. I think this is their second big game, except the first one, which was Monday night Cincinnati, I don't think we knew what we had yet. I don't think the country knew anything about the Commanders at all, other than that Jayden Daniels kid looked pretty good, in his first couple of games, but they're 1-1, and last week they didn't score a touchdown and all that stuff. And now this is how quickly things can change. Cat's out of the bag. He's really good. He's probably going to be the rookie of the year. The way they're going right now, you would have a conversation about MVP with him, which would be practically unprecedented. They're rewriting their own record books. And, the guy that he's playing against, he has openly said on draft night, I can't wait to play against him. I, admire him, as most of the young quarterbacks do. And, oh, by the way, they happen to be in the playoffs just about every single year. And they were in the AFC Championship game. And I believe right now, if I had to take a guess, it's them and the Chiefs is the best two teams in the AFC right now, even though they're only 3-2. So this is the first litmus test. And I got to tell you, it's the first time in a while that I have felt like we got a big game that has real meaning attached to it. We've had a couple in the past Like the Giants one that was flexed to Sunday Night Football a couple of years ago where they had that dud where they had gotten hot. They'd done this with Rivera. Start slow, get hot. But I don't think anybody was sitting there looking at that team. I think they were waiting for them to win. We thought they turned a corner. But I don't think anybody was fooling themselves into believing like that was a Super Bowl type of team or a championship aspiration type of team. And I don't want to go that far with this one. But I think we all know that the whole setup here is totally different. And this is going to be the first of what I hope is many showcase games for Washington, and I can't wait. Like it's Tuesday, and I'm like just jacked up because we haven't had one that's framed like this in a while, where we're actually good. We don't even know how good we are. We know this is the beginning of something, and we're going to go on the road against a team that we know is great, and we're going to find out where we stand with them in the middle of the season. It's awesome.
Yeah, and they happen to be 45 minutes away. It's not like it's not.
It's got to be the biggest game against them that we've ever had against them, right? I mean, it's got to be the most meaningful Commanders-Ravens game because they only play them every 4 years, so it's got to be.
They did play each other in 2012. I think that was probably the last big one. That was remember RG3 got hit by Haloti Ngata. That was the first knee injury.
He got cut in half by Haloti. He found out the hard way that Haloti Ngata is faster than he looks.
Correct. I was there, and I heard that hit from the club level that day. But that was probably the last big one because of this reason. It was like we've got one of these guys. They're playing a home game against this team. Let's see how they stack up. But even then, I remind people they weren't like amazingly good like this that year. They had a losing record at some point. I want to say it was during that. They were something
stretch. Like 3-6. You know, like they had the great win on the opener against the Saints, and then they were like. Because I remember I was talking to Logan Paulson, who was on that team, you know, and he was like, because I asked him, like, you know, you lived the hype of RG3, and he goes, well, you know, what people don't remember is actually we had a really bad record, you know, like 4 or 5 games in. So while everybody was very excited about Robert, we weren't winning like this.
Yeah.
Right?
And so just to add on to all of this, I was actually literally having this discussion with someone last night, and they're like, what do you call this? And, you know, you call it the big boy game. You call it the coming out party. And I said, you call it a legacy game. It's their first test of this era, mainly because you look at the last 5 weeks, you get to speed up the timeline. I normally would say, oh, let's just see what happens. But I think the way this offense and the way this team has just been going, they need a real test. And we know that this is going to be one. Let's see how they stack up. Like, I think this might be the most juiced up game since like that Cowboys playoff game, to be completely honest, in 2012, or not playoff game, but to get into the playoffs. Like, I'm just saying the Kirk teams never had that much juice. Like, even games that meant something, there was kind of a ceiling there. Like, I never really felt like they were this exciting.
What was the one where they beat the Packers on a night game and Snyder was dancing? That one was all juiced up.
That was a Sunday nighter or a Monday nighter, but but it wasn't going into it, is what I'm getting at here. Yes. Like, it was a good win because you and I were following it, but in terms of just the casual, you know, fan knowing how big this matchup was, the fact that they were talking about Jayden Daniels on Monday Night Football last night and then talking about that matchup, like, they don't get that kind of hype ever. And then not only that, it's Romo and Nance. They put the number 1 team on there. I can't remember the last time they put a number 1 team on, you know, an AFC matchup.
No, I haven't either. And, you know, it's funny because, like, you'd think this would have some kind of rivalry aspect to it. That's not what it is at all for me. Like, I don't feel that way at all about it. I just feel like I respect what they do up there. I've respected them, the way they've built their organization, the consistency that they have. That's really, really hard to maintain. And obviously I respect Lamar and his ability. And I think with the Cowboys should have got Derrick Henry. Like, the Ravens shouldn't have got Derrick Henry. The Cowboys should have got Derrick Henry. Now that they have him, it is beyond a ridiculous thing to try to stop. And I think we're going to find out a lot about our defense this week as they try to limit that run game, because it's been a problem. You know, I think it's been better the last couple of weeks, but like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, the Browns run game this year is not what the Ravens run game is. So we're going to find out, you know, I think a lot about our defense this week. And it's weird. Like, it's so interesting. Like, I just in it here in Washington, like, there are 2 things that have occurred here that are kind of like go against all common logic and history. Like, the Democratic Party removed the presidential candidate in the middle of a sitting president in the middle of an election. And everybody's fear was, you can't do that. If you do, no one's ever done that before. There's not enough time. And that feels like 8 years ago. Like, I think we're in like kind of a spin cycle that's so different now because of social media, because of connectivity, that you could be like, I was saying this at the time. I'm like, you could replace him, like, and put her in, because she'll be on TikTok tomorrow and 8 million people are going to see a million videos of her. And they're going to be like, oh, I know her. Like, it'll take a second. It's not like you have to do these original things. And what the Commanders are doing is literally unprecedented in flipping a team over in literally every single way and putting together a beyond competitive team, and arguably right now the best playing team in the NFL with the Chiefs and the Vikings. Who's been better than them over the last month? You know, will it last? I don't know. And I'm not trying to pretend that I think I know what's going to happen over the next like couple of months into, you know, the end of the season. But the reality is they can go 500 from here and make the playoffs with 10 wins. They do a little bit better than that, and go look at the schedule and tell me you don't think that they can. We're talking about a record they haven't had since the 1990s. And they did this, what feels like overnight. Like, that's weird, but I love it because we're here now. It's been a really long time. I know I'm like everybody. It's taken a little while to believe in it, like to not feel like, as what was the question yesterday, that the other shoe is going to drop.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of this kind of beaten down syndrome of, you know, I don't want to get too excited, because when I get too excited, you know, it's like you meet a girl in the bar and you really actually hit it off, and you just don't want to get too crazy about it because could this be real? She actually likes me. Like, that's what's kind of happening here. But I kind of landed on, after the Cleveland game, they didn't even play that well on offense, and they blew them out, and they're pulling their quarterback with 12 minutes to go. We're in a new normal right now. Like, this isn't, we need to get used to it. And I think, kind of to your point, like, you got to enjoy it. Because, and I'm going to get to why in a second, because it isn't going to last in perpetuity. It's not. Like, everything turns back the other way. Everybody gets criticism. Josh Allen's getting it. Joe Burrow's on a team that's 1-4 right now. Like, Matthew Stafford's on a 1-4 team right now. The Niners are 2-3. They're all going to say that Purdy's no good anymore. Watch, like, you'll see, it goes up and down all the time. We do need to enjoy this because it's new, it's fresh. Everybody's getting clean, you know, like fresh eyes on it. Everybody's paying attention to it. They're all saying all these great things. I love that Jayden is consistently saying, you know, if I don't play well, I know what's going to happen. Like, he's not feeding into it. His ego doesn't seem to be like getting out of whack here. So we do need to try to enjoy this, even though I know on some level, none of us can really believe it because it's happened so fast and happened so kind of overnight right before our eyes. And I don't think any of us expected it to be this good. I'm optimistic. I would never have been this optimistic if I told you 5 weeks ago, we're actually going to be one of the best teams in the NFL. You would have laughed at me, been like, you're a homer, go do skin tangibles, you're a dum-dum. You would have done the whole thing. And I wouldn't even have believed anything like that. I'm sitting there going, hey guys, I think if they got to 9-8, 10-7, that would be unbelievable if they made the playoffs. Now, I don't know. After what I've seen, I believe it. I don't think it's fake. I think it's real. I think the chemistry is real. I think the team that they put together is real. And I don't think that this is going anywhere. And I think that's why this weekend is so much fun, because it feels like a first really big game. Because if you haven't bought into what you've seen the last few weeks, you haven't watched this sport. And they're ready to take on somebody and find out where they are. And that's what they get this weekend.
No, I think I've used this line with you on one of our interviews before, where I've said it's actually really easy to figure out who hasn't watched the games, like who doesn't really know ball, because they use these tropes that they're trying to either compare it to RG3 or use excuses for Caleb Williams. And all I always point back to is you're not watching the games if you don't see how well this team is playing right now, how well they've gelled, because you can tell that the chemistry is there on both offense and on defense, and that they're playing off each other in such a way. Like, yes, this is why you should enjoy it, because I'm not saying it's going to get like drastically worse, but they're on a run right now. And maybe someone figures out how to stop him. Maybe they don't. But at the end of the day, like, just enjoy it in the moment. Don't wait for the other shoe to drop. I thought that question was hilarious that they asked Dan Quinn yesterday to finish out his press conference, essentially. But
I thought it was a fair question, honestly, because like, I actually thought it was Liam from the Washington Times, and he is actually new on the beat.
Yeah. And
I thought that was very tuned in to ask that question, because it's every conversation that I'm having with people is this real? I can't believe my eyes. Like, can you believe? Because I think everybody recognizes they're not just winning. They are legitimately good, and good in so many ways that it doesn't feel like it should have happened this fast. And it's just beyond expectation. And, you know, like in a month from now, they're a Panthers loss away from everybody going, see, I told you, like, not to get too far ahead of it. But it does feel very real to me right now. And I think that's why this weekend is like so intense, because you're going to really, everybody now expects them to play at a different level, and they know what that other team is. And so I think, listen, it's just week 6, but it's the first time in a long time that I have felt like they're set up to play a game where we kind of find out where they are and on what level they are. And if they're kind of right there or somehow pull off a win here, you think people have gone bonkers to this point? You just wait and see what the power rankings are on Monday if they pull this one off.
Well, I think like one of the things that I had to like point out yesterday was you have David Aldridge writing a piece for The Athletic saying like it's okay to believe Washington fans. I had to tag John Walton. I'm like, it took 6 years, but now it's starting to apply to the football team where we have to tell everyone, hey, it's okay to like enjoy all of this right now.
It's because it's undeniable. Like, that's the thing. Like, I'm like, am I in a dream? And I think that's what's been the last couple of weeks. Like, is this real? Because it's been so good that it's hard to believe and it defies logic. And when we talk about, well, you have to build up to get to this point, and then you have to have these battle scars, and they seem to have like taken some kind of bizarre shortcut to all of it. And it really, like, I don't care how they got here. And like I said yesterday, like, this ends up like, if they're playing like this in January, then they can beat anybody, and that they make movies out of things like this. Like, this story is ridiculous, and it's exciting to be part of it. And the other part of let's enjoy it now is because there are ups and downs. And listen, this isn't a hot take factory over here, but I do monitor First Take every once in a while, and every once in a while they do one where I'm like, that is spot on and was deserved. So have you seen this clip of Shannon Sharpe going after Dan Orlovsky for not basically going after Aaron Rodgers for his play, which has been undeniable? Like, not unlike, like, do you believe your eyes with the Commanders? If you don't think that Aaron Rodgers is playing poorly right now, then you aren't watching them play, because he was really bad in that London game. His completion percentage is in like the 50s. Like, he doesn't look good. And while I will agree, he's not their only problem, he's also not their solution. And if you're not like recognizing that or saying that, then you're defending him. So Club Shade went for Raj yesterday. And I'm telling you, this is worth it. I don't like, me, I don't love all the hot takey stuff all the time. It's not my style, but every once in a while, I think they hit the nail on the head on one of them. And apparently Dan Orlovsky was being a little, in their opinion, overprotective of Rodgers and not going at him. So, all right, take a listen to this. This is Shannon Sharpe going after Dan Orlovsky yesterday.
Now, I was told that they were bringing a guy in. The offense was inept when they had Zach Wilson. The offense was inept when they had Mike White. It was inept when they had Joe Flacco. It was inept when they had Sam Darnold. I was told by somebody that played the position up here that they're bringing a guy in. Now, they're losing. Why are they losing, D.O.? Because you keep saying the inept offense. Talk about the quarterback play. 3 interceptions again. 53% completion percentage last week. 57 this week. Nah, I'm not going to let you blame it on the offense, because you didn't blame the offense when they had those other quarterbacks. You blame the quarterback, but you want to stay in good graces, and you won't call Aaron Rodgers out. He's playing awful. You know it. Everybody in New York knows it, and everybody around the NFL knows it. He's playing terrible. Call it like you see it.
Hold on. Shannon, one, he said it himself. I don't need to go on national television and tell people that Aaron Rodgers played poorly. No. There is a way that you have to play Minnesota. First of all, I never blamed the quarterbacks in New York. I always blamed the situation. I'm the guy who tries to put context on performances. I'm not telling anybody that Aaron has played well the past 2 weeks. By no means. He even said it himself, not up to his standard. But Shannon, you know this. There is a way that you have to play as an offense to help your guys play well against certain defenses.
Not turn the ball over.
No question. So the pick six, 100%. That is a predictable pick six. He ran the triple slants. Van Ginkel knew it. The second interception, he forces the ball down the field to Lazard. I'm not telling anybody Aaron's playing well, but it's also not my job to go on national television and talk about a Hall of Fame quarterback when I was a backup quarterback and say that he stinks. Yes, he's part of the situation.
Stephen A.
But that's not, you're a Hall of Famer. You could do that. You're a Hall of Famer. You could do that. You could do that.
I need you to give D.O. Let him see his job description. That is his job, is to critique Hall of Fame, non-Hall of Famers. It does not matter.
But my job is to put context on why. My job is to put context.
Oh, tell me that wasn't perfect television. And now I know why they pay Shannon Sharpe what they pay him. Because that ain't a hot take. That's beyond true. It is undeniable that Rodgers is playing really poorly. Apparently, Orlovsky is refusing to go at him. In turn, he seems to be, and this is where I think they're getting at, which I hope the conversation went to. Are they setting up to run the bus over Natty Hacks? Right? Because that's where Orlovsky's going. He's going, the offense needs to help the guy do the things he needs to do. Meantime, the throw was underthrown on one interception. The second one was terrible placement. And the third, he got read and got fooled by Van Ginkel and threw a pick six. That's not the offense. That's the quarterback play. And I love Shannon Sharpe going, we need to tell you what your job description is here, buddy.
Mm-hmm. There's like two parts to this. One, you know when this happens when somebody doesn't know what to say, so they start backtracking. Orlovsky's backtracking, all-time bad there, saying, I can't criticize a Hall of Fame quarterback. It was like, oh, I don't know about that one, dude. That's like, you stepped in it on that one. The second part of this is typical ESPN, though. Like, I went into this game going, the Vikings defense might be the best one in the NFL. Yeah. So, like, we knew it wasn't going to be this high-scoring game. Rodgers made mistakes against what is the best defense in the NFL right now. Maybe that should be the conversation, because I think you and I think the same thing about Rodgers. If they're still 500 by halfway through the season, they're probably still going to make the playoffs because they're just going to go on a run at some point. Like
100%.
Like he's going to have games like this, but I know Shannon brings up a good point. Like you have to criticize him when he's having these terrible games, even if it is against a good defense.
There is also there's an insinuation there also. There's an insinuation there that he's going to show up on McAfee. He gets a lot of attention. If you go at him, he'll go at you, and like he doesn't want anybody going at him. And if he gets McAfee to get mad at Dan, then Dan falls out of the good graces at ESPN. There's a little bit of that I think is kind of an underlying thing. And Shannon Sharpe saying it is going, I don't care if Aaron doesn't like me, which is very interesting. Like he can go, I know where I am. I'm on Team Stephen A. We're untouchable over here. Orlovsky's play in the middle where he goes on both of those shows. And he's like, if I'm the graces of Team McAfee and Team Rodgers, that might actually get me in trouble. That's what he's insinuating there too, is that you won't go after him because you're concerned that you'd get in trouble if you did it, which is not your job description. And anybody, and it doesn't take me to say it, but anybody who watched the Jets play knows he was a problem. And if you can't say that, then you're not doing your job.
Yep. It's true. It's absolutely true. And Orlovsky now has to tread differently is what I'd say. Not tread lightly, but tread differently with some of these conversations.
I agree. All right. One real quick thing too. Kansas City wins again. I think like I said yesterday, I go, I assume they'll win. I wouldn't have been surprised because Kansas City's been in a lot of close games. I wouldn't have been surprised if the Saints could score. I just don't trust them. And I think that's where I am with them. Like they have a good enough team to be competitive, playoff team, but they just don't win a lot of games like this. They're not to be trusted in that way. And, I think this is what's exciting about, where Washington is going. We're going to find out where they stand in games like this starting on Sunday. It's not going to be a referendum if they lose, but it is going to be the first sign of this is what it looks like when they like this, where it's a heightened spot against a really good team on their home field. And the Saints seem to fail in these situations all the time. And they posted 13 points last night. That just ain't going to cut it. Their bread and butter is going to be their offense, especially their speed on the outside. And they can't score more than 13 points. This is why they're not to be trusted. And this is why probably in the end, they're definitively not going to win their division, because I think Atlanta, who already beat them, albeit with defensive scores, but beat them, and Tampa Bay, who's kind of been tried and true in this, one of those two is going to win that division, which means the Saints are going to be struggling to get a wild card. You
also had Carr leave the game with an oblique injury yesterday too, which if he's, I don't really know, actually. He's one of those quarterbacks, if they went to their backup, who I don't even know who they have as their backup because I turned the game off in the fourth quarter. I don't even know if the offense would run any differently, but I just don't trust him. He had a ridiculous interception to start that game off, too, where he just chucked it up, but then didn't put it out of bounds. He does really dumb decisions, and it's like I can't understand why you've been in the league for a decade at this point, and you're making those types of calls. I just don't believe in them. I'm with you. It's going to be the Bucs or the Falcons to win that. How about this, though? I have a take for you off Kansas City. The Commanders have a better offense than the Chiefs, but the Chiefs have a better defense than the Commanders. And I think that's pretty much why the Chiefs have.
Yeah, I'd say that for now. But like the problem is, like, I don't want to get into a discussion about whether Jayden's on Mahomes' level because he's not.
No, he's not.
Nobody is.
I agree with you on that. But
nobody is.
The offense as a whole right now, Washington has a better
Until
offense.
he gets to the playoffs, wins playoff games, wins a Super Bowl, nobody is on that guy's level.
No, I'm not talking about that, but I'm saying right now in the moment as a unit, Washington has a better offense than Kansas City, but Kansas City's defense is what's made them 5-0 so far.
I do. I'll do this later in the week because I don't have enough time today, but I do believe there's a pretty good comp for Jayden of like early career, like great, that I'll share with you later in the week. And it's not Mahomes. I think they're very different players. All right. If you are listening on the radio or listening to the podcast, what you'll hear next is a segment from the Booth Review podcast that I do with the Commanders with London off of the game against the Browns. On YouTube, you will not see that. Yes, the show's back up on YouTube if you haven't seen it. It is back up on the Ampire Media channel, and we'll post this, but you won't see the London Fletcher one because that kind of belongs to the Commanders. So you have to listen to the podcast to hear that segment. Very much the show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Welcome back. Every week I have the opportunity to meet up with my booth mates to do what we call the booth review for the Commanders, where we talk about the game we just called the day before. So yesterday, London Fletcher, so happy to have him back with me after the terrible personal tragedy. His family forced him to miss the last few games, but it was great to have him and his energy back in the booth to get on the joyride with all of us here, as Washington has now won 4 straight and blew out the Browns 34-13 on Sunday. So on the booth review, boy, we had a lot to talk about, and most of it's positive. Here was part of my conversation with London Fletcher. We're in the studio. They like to play games here. So you ready to play games?
Let's play some games, man.
We're going to call this one. Let's call this one This or That.
This and that. I like that.
All right, I'll give you a few of them.
Okay.
And you tell me if it's this or that.
I want to hear you too. You got to give an answer too.
That's fine. The defense has arrived, Commanders, or Cleveland's offense is terrible. This or that.
Well, both. Both. But I will say this. Our defense, I'm going to lean more so on our defense having arrived, because you look at what they did last week against the Cardinals, having I think 4 sacks in that game, really,
yes.
The pass rush coming alive, defensive front really imposing their will on the game. And as I said, dictating the terms of the agreement. Our defense dictated the terms of that agreement yesterday with the Cleveland Browns, and it was very one-sided terms. And the Browns had no choice but to accept those terms. Now, the Browns offense also stinks too. But I think it's more of our defense haven't arrived.
I don't think we've arrived yet. We don't have an interception. They claim ball is life. Of all these points that Washington scores, it's never on short fields. One time yesterday on the punt return, there's been no interception at the 20 or fumble recovery, and they get the short field and they score. Washington's had to walk down the field to do all these things and get the points. So I don't think they've arrived yet. They're playing way, way, way better than they have for over the last 2 weeks compared to the first 3 weeks.
We're talking about the last 2 weeks, man.
The last 2 weeks have been better, but I'm waiting for what they talk about, which is ball is life. And I haven't seen that part yet.
Bram, they had 7 sacks yesterday.
Hey,
11 in the last
I'm
2
not
games.
complaining, but when you use the word arrived and you set the benchmark for we're going to get turnovers and you're not getting them, then you haven't arrived yet. So that's how I feel about it. And I bet DQ and Witt like me saying that right now. I'm on their team about that one.
All right, let's go to the next one.
But they played really well. When you hold a team to 38 yards and a half, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Okay. Jayden is still missing the open guys, or the rookie is still growing here? Because you had one, you called it out. On the one he scrambled, he had a wide open Terry McLaurin that should have been a touchdown pass.
I'm going to go with the rookie is still growing. There was some, and he'll be better. I mentioned this, the more he plays, I know going into that game, he was completing 82% of his passes. Those numbers, they didn't stay to that level. Even with the percentage not being that, I think the more games he plays, the better he'll become because of the experiences. He has the experience of yesterday against the Cleveland Browns and that type of defense where I felt he was a little sped up, maybe a little unsettled early. He missed a couple, I thought, open receivers. He missed Ertz down the middle.
Yeah.
He missed, I thought, Ertz in the end zone for a touchdown, inaccurate throw. But he's going to continue to get better. And, in fact, folks, we got to understand this. He's only played 5 games. So the rookie is still growing.
That's what I describe him as AI. They just put more information in him. And he improves every single time.
Chat
so where's
GPT.
it going to? He's Chat GPT. Where's it going to go? Right? Where's it going to go from here? I'm going to go with he's just still growing. That's what I think. And to your point, it's 5 games. People seem to forget this part. He's playing better than any rookie quarterback I've literally ever seen. But it still doesn't mean there's a lot of room to grow. And I think yesterday was one of the first times that he actually missed a couple of throws that he probably wants back. I will say this though about him, and this is the part that I'm really, really, really excited about. How many times has he put the ball in danger? I mean, he's extremely protective of it. He had one bad throw in Arizona that got picked off. He had a second one there that I think they caught him a little bit, and it was inaccurate, and it was a miss, but it wasn't really close to being picked. I mean, he's had 1 interception in 5 games because he doesn't put the ball in harm's way.
He threw one. He had the one yesterday.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Yes, 2. 2 in 5 games. That was a bad throw.
Yeah.
JOK made a nice play. I don't want to take anything away from him. He made a very nice play there. That was a bad throw. Missed Ertz on a touchdown. Could have had McLaurin on a touchdown. So there's room to grow, obviously, here. But in general, his decision-making on the whole, for the large part, is way ahead of the curve. And that's why I'd stick with he's growing.
And think about this. With the exception of the first quarter aside, I thought Jayden was outstanding.
Yes.
I mean, he had several remarkable throws. One of the best throws he had was there was a comeback that he threw, a deep comeback to Terry on the sideline. And he threw that ball before Terry was out of his break. Perfect throw. I mean, it wasn't a touchdown play or one that's going to make the Sports Center highlight. But I'm sure when the coaches talk about that throw that he made, that was a big-time throw.
All right, last one. This is who they are. They're good, or it's going to come back to earth.
I think this is who they are. With the caveat of, and I said, even being 4-1 right now, they know they can play better.
100%.
They know that they can play better football in every facet. So I believe this is who they are.
I do too. I thought after the Cincinnati game that this is the beginning.
Yes.
That we saw the first big moment of the beginning. I don't know what it is, but it's the beginning of something. I wanted to see what would happen the next week. And they turn around and they play better, and they play their best complementary performance across the board that I've seen them play in a long time, just in general, this team to play this way. Turn around, come home. Everybody's all pumped up around here. The last time we had a game like this where they asked the crowd to show up and expected a win was a Sunday night game against the Giants, and they laid a dud. They couldn't score any points. There was a couple of bad calls at the end of the game. McLaurin got called for an offside. You'll remember that shouldn't have been called. And then Curtis Samuel got mugged in the end zone. They didn't throw a flag. But this was the first time we've asked everybody, show up, get on board with this thing, and they delivered.
Yes.
This now is new normal. How good is it going to be? I don't know. But I am very confident that it's not going back in a different direction. Like, are they the type of team that's going to ascend that quickly to head into New Orleans this February? I don't know about that. but I don't feel like that this is an aberration anymore. And I think I've seen too much with too much growth to go to think it's going backwards. I think we're in a new normal, and we all need to get accustomed to it.
Yeah, that's it. I totally agree, man.
Yeah. All right. Which leads me into, I want to do your heavyweight championship belt in a moment, because I do think that this is our first big game of this new era. Now, the Cincinnati one may or may not have been perceived that way. It's Monday night. They're up there. Cincinnati typically has a very good team with Burrow, and they'd gotten Higgins back and all that. But I don't think anybody knew. We weren't in the new normal yet. We needed to prove some things. This is the first big game that they're having. Spotlight game. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going to be paying attention to it. People know how good Baltimore is. They do it every single year. It's a matchup of quarterbacks that's going to bring a lot of attention. We're going to get some national media here this week. What do you think?
I tell you what, man. I feel like I'm getting ready to call a big game. I don't know.
It is.
I don't know if you've got there yet, but I'm anticipating Saturday rolling into Baltimore. This right here. It's a litmus test early in the season, and I'm sure we'll have many more. But when you understand historically what the Baltimore Ravens are, they're one of the top teams in the NFL year in and year out. Coach Harbaugh, John Harbaugh, he's been one of the best coaches year in and year out. Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP, reigning MVP. It's going to be a challenge.
And to your point about how, who wins the line of scrimmage, that team on offense typically wins it.
Exactly.
This is going to be a very interesting, telling test against that rush offense this weekend.
And not only that, so they won the game yesterday, but defensively they gave up 38 points. You know how things happen in a defensive meeting room. When you haven't played up to your expectations, the emphasis on correcting the things you didn't do well, and the greater attention to detail. I don't know how they tackled all the different things that they didn't do well defensively. They're going to emphasize those things a lot in their practice week, a lot in their meetings. So the defense, I expect them to be ready to play a lot better game, the Ravens defense. So it's going to be a challenge, but I'm looking forward to it because I feel like Coach Quinn is going to have his guys ready to go out and play their best football as well. So let's see what happens, man. You talk about heavyweight fight.
It is.
Let's ding, ding, ding. And let's get it on.
And back to the point of who's playing better than them right now, and make an argument that anybody's playing better than Washington right now, and go look and see how they're installed, how big of an underdog they're installed. Because I
saw it. Was it like 7 points already?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, personally, players, not a lot of players pay a whole lot of attention to that. I've had some coaches who kind of use that as a motivation, especially if we're like at home and we're underdog. Hey, man, they got us as an underdog here. But as players, we don't pay a whole lot of attention to that. That's not going to make me go out and play harder. I'm going to play hard just because this is what I do. So, how much they're paying attention to the underdog factor, that's good for the betting world and all that. But I know they're going to be ready to play their best football because of Coach Quinn and the coaching staff and understanding that the opponent and who they are and playing in that environment, they'll be ready to play regardless of what the point spread is.
Real quick, you played linebacker. What would you say to the people who have to tackle Derrick Henry this weekend?
Hey, double chin strap game. Buckle up. You got to get him before he gets going. The defensive line, the linebackers, you got to get him before he gets going. And then also there's going to be times where the cornerbacks are going to have to be live and willing tacklers. That's just the way it is. There's going to be times where he gets to that second level, whether you're a safety or you're a cornerback, and they force you to be the guys fitting in the run. You have to go out and don't hesitate, don't wait, don't retreat. You got to take it to him. Because a big guy like that, that's the worst thing you want to do is kind of be retreating. You got to be aggressive and go at him.
He gets going, he's going to run you over like a truck.
Yeah, you got even if he makes it, when he makes it to the second level, if he breaks it, a long run, you still have to be aggressive in your pursuit or aggressive in your tackle attempt against him.
All right, time to bring out Big Fletch's Heavyweight Commander Championship belt,
All right, let's
which
go.
goes to the play or player of the game, your choice,
This
from
is
the Cleveland
debut.
game.
This is the debut of Big Fletch's Heavyweight Championship belt. And if y'all don't know who Big Fletch is, Big Fletch is I. I had to go back to, got to get back to Big Fletch. All right. The first recipient of Big Fletch's belt, me being me, having played linebacker, Bram, I think it's only fitting that I give this belt to the first recipient, Frankie Louvu. Frankie Louvu was an absolute animal in that game against the Cleveland Browns. 2.5 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, fumble recovery, had the big 4th down stop on 4th and 1 early on the Browns' first play of the game, first series of the game. He had a number of impactful plays that it might not even made the stat sheet, but just his impact, his intensity, his physicality. There's nobody who would question me giving Frankie Louvu the Big Fletch's Heavyweight Championship belt. That's my guy.
First player since Ryan Kerrigan 4 years ago, 2 sacks and a fumble recovery in the same game. His energy is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable. And a worthy recipient of the belt.
We'll present this belt to, we won't present it to him because we're going to need this for next week's show, or we got to, but, we'll send him a letter or something, let him know he won this belt.
I can't wait for next week. We haven't had something like this in a while. Feels like a real big game show me moment off of a team on the rise.
Oh, yeah.
Like this. It's been a while.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. You, last year you went down to watch the joint practices with the Ravens, or I don't know if you.
That's a long story.
Okay, never mind.
That's a long story that we don't need to detail.
Listen.
Yeah.
So I was at those practices, and it was intense. And I don't know if you remember last year. Well, I know you remember the preseason game from last year. There's already a hate. It's a bit of rivalry, the Beltway battle and all that. The battle of the Beltway.
I don't think we've had a game with the Ravens that kind of had this much on the line.
No, not probably ever.
Probably ever.
Ever, but it's going to be physical.
Check out the booth review wherever you get your podcasts, or on the commanders.com homepage or the Commanders YouTube pages. Be right back. Bram Watch the Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. I have an interesting question for you. What's better for our guy Paul? A good Alabama or a bad Alabama? And I will play you a clip, not the whole thing.
I was going to say.
I can't play the whole thing because it's the best 6-minute sports radio call I've heard in a long time. And I think the magic of our guy, Paul, is that he has a caller set base that makes his show, you can't tune away from it. If you're an SEC football fan, you can't tune away from it because he has his own, for lack of a better way of putting it, like Howard Stern Whack Pack that calls in to his show from all these parts unknown in the South. And then when things like what happened on Saturday to Alabama happen, it's just gold. And he doesn't have to do anything but just sit there and let these people call in and freak out. So let me ask this before I play this clip. Is this good for Paul? Is it better that Bama's a juggernaut like under Saban, or that they lose to teams like Vanderbilt and allow for the people to call in and go, what the hell is that?
Well, the answer to your question is actually yes, because Bama is still good. They had one bad loss. Would you be shocked if they're in the playoff at the end of the year? No.
Well, they beat Georgia, and they're not out of the top 10 yet. So they're going to have to lose again, but they're playing Texas, I believe. So that will probably be it for them.
Sure. But I'm saying like every team now has one loss. Not every team, but you know what I mean? There's been losses here where people still make the playoffs. So I think the answer is yes. Having them lose to a team like Vanderbilt, who is in the SEC, does provide a good week's worth of entertainment. It doesn't mean they're not going to be there at the end, is what I'm getting at.
I'm not going to play all of this. About 30 seconds of it is worth it. But here's Feinbaum yesterday from one of his very famous callers on losing to Vanderbilt.
I never thought I would utter these words. Vandy is my daddy. Can you believe that? Vandy is my daddy. Do you hear that, Coach DeBoer? That don't piss you off, dude. It pisses me off. It pisses me off, Coach DeBoer. Let me say this to all Alabama fans, because I've caught some flack today, and I can take it. That's why they call me the legend. I can take it. I don't mind. Everybody say what they want. It don't matter. I can take it. You can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. I love the kitchen. So let's get that right. And get this right. I'll ride and die with the Crimson Tide. I don't care to go back and get Mike Shula the coach. I'm going to put Alabama every friggin' game. But that don't mean I can't be pissed at what I seen Saturday on the field. Alabama don't lose to Vandy. We don't lose to Vandy. That is friggin' pathetic, Coach DeBoer. 40 years, dude. 40 years.
I didn't even have time to get to where my favorite one, where he goes, "Hey, Coach DeBoer, strike one." It's I'm jealous of it, sorta, because I don't think I want to live in that world all the time. But we don't take calls because we don't get callers like that.
Yeah, right, correct.
Like, we don't get the I think for good reason. Like, it's nuts. But I gotta tell you, I don't know. Is this better for Paul that Bama might do things like this all the time? Because from just the old content department, it's amazing. Like, ask Stephen A. Smith. He is in the best place ever with the Cowboys. They're not bad enough where making fun of them is like gratuitous. And they're not good enough to win, which means he gets to go after them when they don't and turn it into content. Alabama going from beating Georgia to losing to Vanderbilt is an incredible place for Paul to be in, because they're not bad enough that they're besmirching the legacy of Nick Saban, but they're clearly not good enough or consistent enough to be a national champion. And that is the perfect space to be in when you have crazies that call it every week about their teams.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still worth reiterating. It's one loss after how much great play, right? Like,
it's
just
a bad one, and it's his first year, and they just beat Georgia. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Did you hear what Kirby said when he was asked about it? Like, he was asked about it after the game.
No.
He went full straight face, and he kind of took a shot at Saban. He was like, you know, nothing shocks me in the SEC. I respect that program over there. I respect what they do, because if you remember, Saban was like, "Oh yeah," like he didn't say he didn't respect them, but he was just like, he basically made a like, they're unserious about football down there.
We don't lose here.
Yeah, and like, I guess he made a comment about like, oh, it's not loud there or something like that they were playing on the Jumbotron after the game or something like that. So to your point, they're not the Cowboys because they've literally won championships. They're a dynasty in the hardest conference in America. Like,
but they're in this sweet spot now of they still recruit crazy players. They still have a really good team. They're top 10. They just beat Georgia, but they're losing to Vanderbilt. And
they have to lose one more.
Unusual.
They have to lose one more for it to really hit a next level, I think. It's one loss. It's one loss.
All right, be back at it tomorrow. Brave Wants to Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital.